alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to Live After Reading. I'm Tim Niederreiter, and with me today is a returning guest, one who plies the field of plies the field. That's not good. Whatever. Plies the waves of traditional publishing, maybe, and, as well as having some indie works before that. So, welcome to the show, Matt Wallace.
Thank you, Tim. I guess plying the field is. I don't know if that's better or worse than plowing the field. Maybe not something we want to get into, but
We're not going to talk anymore about field. We're with a nautical metaphor now.
Right. No, it's good. It's a good save. I like it. We're making it work. No, it's good to be back, man. We were just discussing this before we started recording. It was a little over almost 3 years ago that I was on the show before. So it's been a minute.
Yes. You were
in that minute.
Indeed, many things happen in a minute that lasts a few 2.5 years, but it is, it's always good to talk to you. I should say, though, this is probably only the second time that's actually happened, but never mind. Sometimes rarity makes an occasion fonder. But
yeah, I find when I haven't plied a field for a while and then I return to it. See, I'm already doing callbacks. I'm just going right back in the right back.
You're pro, Matt. You're a professional podcaster.
We both are.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Yeah, I declared such a few years ago on one of my other shows. In a loud, semi-drunken voice.
Declare it for yourself, and then it becomes true. Like nobody's going to do it for you. It's an important thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. But you got some good news today, Matt. Because, well, I mean, you've had some good news for a while, but it's come to fruition. This great struggle that you've been waging with traditional publishing. Your first novel, the traditionally published novel, full length work. I guess, I mean, Sin du Jour. Those are not short books necessarily by my standard, but. First big.
No, I mean they are certainly not. Yeah. I agree with you generally. I tend to like shorter novels myself, but that's just not really a thing anymore in a mainstream publishing context. I mean, unless you're writing middle grade, which I also am doing now, so it's actually much better for me because that tends more towards word counts that don't wreck my life in the long term. But yeah, no, it's. I have this book coming out next month, or in the context of when we're going to release this, I believe like a week, depending on your
right around the corner.
But as we record, it's still a couple of months away. But Savage Legion. It's my debut epic fantasy novel, and it actually is my debut novel with a big publisher, at least. So, yeah, and it has been a long road, Tim. The road has been very long. Thank you for reminding me about that, because now I'm just going through all of those events and all those years in my head, and it's a really traumatic experience. So appreciate that, buddy.
Well, my hat's off to you for doing all the hard work to get that book, submitted and all that stuff. Not to mention written, and edited and all that nonsense that you have to go through, especially for traditional publishing, because that's to me. Sure, you've got a lot of people helping you out with traditional books, but there's also a ton more hoops to jump through. So
there are many steps. It's a very, I don't want to say bureaucracy, but it's a bureaucracy. I do want to say bureaucracy. It's a publishing bureaucracy. That's exactly what it is. But hopefully you work with good people that make that bureaucracy, that shield you from it. Really, that's honestly, I think that's a big part of what agents and good editors do, is shield you from the bureaucracy of publishing. Like really 80% of the job, boil all of it down. And if your agent and your publisher and your editor are not doing that for you, then I question their validity.
So agents and editors work kind of like a hazmat suit when you combine them. They protect you from the harmful radiation of publishing.
They are the hazmat suit, Tim. Good agents and good editors are your publishing hazmat suits. They ensconce you in a protective layer that keeps you from the worst elements of the industry. That's a very apt metaphor.
Excellent. So I think I met your agent, or I think Dongwon's, yeah.
Dongwon Song, yes.
Yeah, I forgot his last name. But I met him at a convention a few years ago. at this point.
So did I.
Well, I mean, not. It was just like last year. It was just like last year, to be honest. 2019 in Minnesota. So my local con, I happened to run into him. I was in a grumpy mood though, so I didn't really talk to him. Cons are rough, dude.
No, they are. I appreciate your honesty. I'm sure he didn't mind. He was probably in a grumpy mood too. Cons are rough for agents.
Yeah, well, I imagine so. It was a small one though. It was 4th Street Fantasy for those who aren't aware. It's a pretty tiny convention. There's like 200 people there. Almost all of them are writers. I don't imagine that's any better for the agents though.
It definitely depends. I mean, every agent's authors. I think all industry people like prefer the smaller cons. You know, it's like a respite from the madhouses that are the large ones. So I'm sure it was less taxing than like a Worldcon or whatever for them.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, you've got Savage Legion. Savage Legion, and what is this? You say it's epic fantasy, but I've also heard you bandy about some other terms as regards this novel. Well, could you explain what the book's about?
Sure. I've been labeling it anti-epic fantasy a lot, just because in large part it's my reaction to my least favorite tropes in the genre. It was really one of the things I wanted to do with it was write an epic fantasy that was self-aware, not in the sense of like not in a meta way of like they all know they're in a fictional story, but just the idea of what would an epic fantasy society look like if that society had actually learned from the lessons of other epic fantasy societies? You know, what would that become?
Okay.
So that's a big central theme in the book, and I don't explain it very well. My agent, Dong Won Sung, who we just talked about, he called it a full frontal assault on the worst instincts of epic fantasy, which is a much better tagline than anything I could possibly come up with.
No, that's a pretty good tagline, I got to say. I was working on taglines today, full disclosure.
They're rough, man. Marketing.
They're hell. They're so nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
you got to boil down something that you spent, years writing, this 500-page tome, into one sentence. That's people don't understand what a ridiculously difficult thing that is to do.
Yeah, and not a long sentence either most of the time. I mean, like the Dong Won Song sentence you got is kind of a long one actually, as taglines go. But yeah, it's not bad. It's just not a short. It's not bad. It's just like you sometimes you need if you're a good tagline. You push it with the word count a little bit.
It's
anyway.
Not the movie poster version, but it's just a thing that I thought was very, very encapsulated the book very well. At least that
absolutely. I'm looking forward to this book myself. Full disclosure, for those of you who aren't aware, who haven't gone back and listened to that episode, that probably sounds terrible because my sound quality has improved naturally over the years. But whatever. If you listen to my episode with J. Daniel Sawyer where I talked double, or I literally had double speak going on, you're used to bad sound quality. So you can go back to 2017 and listen to that old episode with Matt if you want. But yes, audience, I'm talking to you.
Sold that so well. So you can go back and listen to it. I mean, it sucks, but like
no, it's a good episode. It's a good episode. It's just got bad sound quality on my end, most likely. I actually haven't listened to it in a while, or maybe ever since I released it. So who knows? Anyway, point is Savage Legion. I keep getting distracted. You can tell I'm tired and a little goofy. Fine. But yeah.
I'm tired of it, honestly, at this point.
Tired of Savage Legion? Don't want to talk about it? We don't have to talk about it.
No, I totally want to talk about it. This is the whole point of everything we're doing here.
Absolutely. Sorry, shouldn't be putting my thumb on the scale there to just go off the rails. So this book is kind of would you say maybe it's a deconstruction of epic fantasy in that sense? Do you throw out an English term?
Yeah. I worry about getting into that because I don't want to start to sound like a pretentious asshole about it. But it naturally kind of does that. Whenever you write something that's a little more self-aware that takes on any kind of tropes, it ends up being deconstructive in a way. It's also just I try to just tell a really compelling story, about people that feel real when you read them. That's really the core of everything. But within that, it definitely deconstructs a specific kind of epic fantasy that we're all familiar with if you read the genre at all. And I think that's in part always kind of your job when you're the author. You're always deconstructing something, whether it's society, whether it's culture, whether it's a person, or literary tropes. You're always taking things apart to examine them from your own perspective. So We're all deconstructionists, then, is what I'm saying.
We're all deconstructionists or deconstructions?
We're all, wow, man, you took that like 3 levels deeper. I said we're all deconstructionists, but I guess
I just didn't hear you. I was actually just asking for clarity, but anyway. No, we're good. We're good. We're deconstructionists, not deconstructions, but maybe we're both. Who can say? Anyway.
That's a different episode.
That is a totally different episode. Maybe I'll have to do a roundtable about that at some point. No, probably not. That's not going to happen. Anyway. Unless I get some nice emails about it, I don't foresee that occurring at any point.
Everybody requested Tim do an episode on how people are all deconstructions because I just want to hear
it. I'll need some serious guests to work that one out. Anyway. Yeah, so I did want to ask you though, because you said the characters feel like real people, and I recently been thinking about this kind of heavily because I'm actually writing an epic fantasy right now myself, the second book in my series. They've got independently published right now, and it's been a long road especially for me. I mean, I started dictating last year, so we're going to say not much about dictation this time because I talk about that all the time, but I expected this book would be done in 2 months, even though it's an epic fantasy. Of course, it wasn't. It's been 10 months. And it's still not done. Or it'll probably be out by the time this episode drops. But anyway, point is, this book, I had so much trouble with it, partially because I forgot a basic tenet that I follow. I followed kind of instinctively when I started out writing, and that's to base everything kind of off of the way the world would work. You know, this fantasy world would work, you know? So the characters arise from within the world. They make sense in the world context. Did you do stuff like that for Savage Legion, or do you approach it a different way?
I tend to do a lot of absorbing when it comes to character work. You know, I absorb people that I know in real life and then just sort of, patchwork them into whatever world I'm constructing. So I think that's one of the most naturalistic approach you can have is just to kind of not shamelessly steal people's souls or anything, but just you take care. I tend to draw very heavily from characteristics. Like you can really look to any tick or any personality trait that a character in my book has, and I can tell you, oh yeah, that was this person I knew 10 years ago who did that. I tend to just construct. Again, I deconstruct real people and then reconstruct the fictional people.
Okay, so you're like a transporter from Star Trek. Okay.
I am the transporter from Star Trek of authors. We'll totally go with that. I like it.
and also almost the King Tuckerizer, but that's an old story at that point. That was in Slingers. You talk like almost every character in that was Tuckerized. Was a Tuckerization. I now realize, which is kind of hilarious. Like a ton of them were.
That is a super old school callback. I didn't think there was anybody left alive who remembered Slingers.
I shouldn't have mentioned it again. I just really like that story. So whatever.
Dude, I really do. Like, it's just strange because that was when I was doing my own author published stuff. Like that was the period. I haven't done that in a long time because I've got so many books under contract now that I just don't have time to do it right anymore. And I am a firm believer that if you're gonna independently publish your own stuff, you gotta do it right. And I just don't have the time to spend on all the aspects of it anymore. So just like they feel like very different periods in my career and my life now. So
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's just very. I don't even expect it anymore. I don't expect anybody to remember any of that stuff. I'm happy you do though.
I'm a slow reader. I don't catch up with authors for a long time. It takes me forever. So this is almost my most recent finished series by you. I guess I haven't finished Sin du Jour quite yet.
Hey, if you haven't read it, it's new to you, Tim.
Yeah, exactly. No, I read that one before our last interview, though. That's how old my information is. Needed to update those files.
Oh, all of our data is a little behind.
The world's moving too quickly. Download speeds aren't what they should be. So, anyway, I keep digressing, and I feel really bad about that. So, whatever, getting self-conscious here. So, So your approach to Savage Legion, did you make this? Is this book a long one? I mean, it's as you've put it, it's anti-epic fantasy, or as your agent put it more dramatically, a frontal assault on epic fantasy trope.
of epic fantasy. Yeah, the genre.
Yeah, exactly. Does that mean the book's a different scale than the other books? I guess that's what I'm curious about.
Another epic fantasy? I mean, it just depends. It's not. It came out, I think, around 130,000 words, which I think is a good sweet spot when you're writing something that's supposed to be epic fantasy. There are certainly tons of authors who do much larger, like, tomes of stuff that just go on for many hundreds of thousands of words. But that was ridiculously long for me because I tend to write short form naturally. So the idea of doing a book that's why it took me so long. It took me 3 or 4 years to write this book because it was my natural inclination. But I just got it in my head that damn it, I wanted to write my epic fantasy. Everybody else got to. I wanted my turn. So yeah. So about 500 pages. I think it ended up clocking out on, which I tend to be really proud of because I can't believe that I actually managed to do that. I know other people do it all the time, but it was very difficult for me to write something of that scope and that scale. So I don't think it's, especially for the last few years of like these giant epic fantasy tomes, but I think it's in a good sweet spot for the genre. Not too long, but not too short. You get a full experience out of it without it kind of drowning in it, you know?
Yeah, a battle cruiser, not a battleship.
That's nice. That was good. See, I rambled on for like 5 minutes, and in 2 seconds, you just summed up the whole thing. That was great. That's why.
Well, you're the one plying the waves with your battle cruiser.
You got me doing a lot of plying today. It's a special day. Plying everything.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So with Savage Legion, that's a good length actually. I've written a few books about that length, and I really enjoy that kind of because it gives you a lot of depth, but you don't have to be there forever and ever. I've never written a book over 200,000 words, but
I can't even conceive of that. Max Gladstone, who I share an agent with, is a friend of mine. Like a lot of his stuff lately, he's just been like going for it, man. It's like 200,000, 300,000 words, and
oof.
I don't know how you do that and actually finish it. Like it's just not. It doesn't even make sense to me. So I give total props to authors who can do that and do it well. It's a skill in itself, like sustaining a story for that long and holding the attention of the reader for that long and making the journey worth it. Like it really is when it's done well. Total props to authors who can do that.
Yeah, long books can deliver major impact, but so can small ones. It's the weird part, or medium-sized ones. Good. I consider 500 pages to be a good long book. Actually, I don't think most people would say 500 pages is a short book. By epic fantasy standards, it's not. It's in the lighter category. Maybe not even lighter. It's not the heaviest kind. It's more like this is normal. This is a normal length epic fantasy versus this is a gargantuan Way of Kings and whatever. And I've got a James Clavell novel behind me with a gun that's going to blow my brains out if I don't say nice things about that. So, so yeah, big books can be fun, but they're I find them very difficult to get through as far as a reader because I'm just a slow ADHD reader.
I mean, easiest. Yeah, smart. Who the hell has the time? Like, I can barely find time to read anything. The idea of committing to something that huge with everything going on and everything I have to do is just it's just impossible. So, again, props to people who can do it and do it well. But
yeah, I have a friend who would read one book a year, and he'd just read a different Wheel of Time book every year for like over a decade until he was done with the series. Yeah. You can
spend your entire life reading Wheel of Time books if you want to.
Well, no, I think he's done with it now. I think he reads a different book every year. But when he was reading, when it was coming out, or whatever,
right?
He just read one of those every year. But I really do think that that there's a sweet spot for length for me, and it's actually more like 300 pages when I'm reading. But my books keep getting longer, so I understand the feeling of 130,000 is a lot, and that was definitely. It's still a lot to me, honestly. The new book is scraping 180,000, but that's terrifying. I don't even like thinking about it. Why did I bring it up?
I don't know, Tim, but
anyway,
it's interesting to me. I feel like I know a lot of authors who, the more books they do, the longer they seem to get. So I don't know if it's a thing if you build up a tolerance / immunity to how daunting those lengthy books are, or maybe he just developed more to say. I honestly don't know, but I wonder if, as I go on, because I'm still writing the rest of the Savage Legion's the beginning of the trilogy, supposedly, and I'm still writing the rest of the trilogy. So I'm just kind of waiting to see if the rest of the books will come out even longer than that, because there's just such a bizarre, surreal thought to me.
Right. I mean, it's like Harry Potter. The books just kept getting longer and longer, which is partially because they kind of transitioned genres at one point, but up to the midpoint, I think, or was it book 5 or 6? One of those was the longest one. The last book was a little shorter, but it's still, these are enormous books at the end of the line with Harry Potter. They're big fat books.
From middle grade to young adult to basically
exactly, but they're also like epic young adult at the end, because they're not those are not traditional young adult length either, is what my point was.
I know that you get to the end of a series like that, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Like,
absolutely.
And can I curse on the show? I don't remember what the rules are for that.
And actually, have you noticed that like both the most famous authors I know, which are Stephen King and J.K. Rowling, they both wrote enormous books. Most of their biggest series, their most famous books, huge fat doorstops, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, like I said, I think that's just a byproduct of you really stop being told what to do. Although these days, I feel like Rowling really should have people telling her what to do, and on top of that list should be stop saying transphobic shit on Twitter. But
absolutely,
in terms of books, I think you reach a point where you're Stephen King or you're George R. R. Martin or whoever. It's like, it's going to sell no matter what. So if they want to run wild, their editor isn't going to be like, I don't know, Steve, for the market and for your brand and everything, maybe cut this down a little bit. Like, who's going to fucking tell them that? So that's an upper 1% thing. There are very few authors who are ever going to get to that point in their careers.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, I wasn't trying to say there was some magic bullet of like, you write the biggest book ever, people will publish that. No, probably not in the traditional world. You can still sell it somewhere, but it's gonna be difficult to get that.
That does tie into the point I was kind of making about, like, I don't know, as you go on being an author, as you get older, as your career goes on, I don't know if even on a smaller scale, even if you're not a Stephen King or whatever, like you feel like you have a little more leeway to try more things, not worry so much about putting the length in the right spot to make it marketable or make it commercial. That's an enormous privilege to ever get to that space. But after you sell a few books, or while you're selling a few books, you do find that you have more options. You don't have any kind of pedigree at all.
Right. And I do think you had a point earlier, too, when you're saying, maybe you have more to say. Because when authors, I feel like as I've matured as an author a little bit, I'm still a young author. Let's be fair, people. But, my author career is 17 years old, so not that young. Writing is. Authoring's not as old as that, but whatever. But I was thinking, do you think your career has matured much when you're moving into this Savage Legion with this series? Not even your career, but your craft. How has your craft matured?
Oh, I mean, yeah, man, my craft has matured immensely. I was just talking about this to somebody earlier, because I started Savage Legion in like 2012, maybe in its earliest iteration. And not 2012. Yeah, 2012. Yeah, 2012. Jesus.
Wow, that's scary.
And in that period of time, like, I have changed so much as a person. I feel like I'm completely different. And for whatever reason, that book just kind of came along with me. Instead of abandoning it and kind of doing something else, it iterated as I iterated. And so, yeah, it grew with my craft and my writing. And, I feel like no matter how long you've been doing this, that's something that should keep happening. Like, your craft and your writing should keep evolving and keep changing. But also just me as a person, I've changed a lot. So I think that's reflected in, if people could see the earliest drafts of this book to what it became, it's not even recognizable. I'm not going to say that I am unrecognizable from 10 years ago, but I'm definitely a lot different than I was then.
Yeah, from what I understand, you currently shave your beard off.
I did. That's the biggest change.
That's just the external thing people go with.
I used to have a beard, and now I don't have a beard anymore. And that actually is a shocking change when you do it. Because I had that beard for 15 years, and then one day I didn't have a beard, and I didn't recognize myself. And now when I see pictures of me with a beard, it's just so bizarre. I did that right before I got married. because it just made me look old. That's really the whole reason. I grew it to hide my double chin. It was like my fat guy beard. And then I got to a point where it turned gray, and I just looked old and fat. And I'm like, well, this isn't helping me at all. So I shaved it off, and I never looked back.
Wow.
Except my pictures of me with a beard from a long time ago. But other than that, I never looked back.
Yeah. I have a hard time with the idea of shaving off my beard. It actually kind of reminds me of this. My memory is a long one, but so please forgive this old reference to your co-host of the Ditch Diggers. Murr at this point where she was like, yeah, she's like, oh, I didn't like to think that you could quit writing. Yeah, and I'm like, I didn't like to think you could shave your beard off. That seems like a bad idea to me. For me, like for my beard, like I don't want to shave my beard off. That's a scary thought. People can do that. Anyway.
Yeah, man, but I mean, going by your picture, I don't know how current it is, but your beard is like lustrous and it's as dark as obsidian, man. Like,
it's turning gray now, though. Turning gray.
Vibrant beard. My beard was totally gray. Like I had nothing left in it, and it was depressing to look at, and a reminder of my own mortality. And I know we should embrace these things about ourselves. Like gray hair shouldn't make you feel bad about yourself, but I had enough shit going on at the time that I was like, I don't need this stacked on top of it, so I'm gonna go. Cut myself a break on not wanting to look at my beard and feel bad about myself. But no, if I was rocking the level of beard that you're rocking, I wouldn't want to shave it either. I mean, that's a statement piece, man.
Well, it works better too because I have no hair on top of my head anymore. Anyway, so you got to keep it somewhere.
No, absolutely. The binging with Babish thing, I'm all about it. It's a good look.
Just migrate that hair down to the neck. Or on the chin.
That hair's been on a journey. That hair's been through its own, epic hero journey, epic fantasy journey.
Exactly. It's on a quest. It's on a quest to find a new home.
Yeah.
Jeez. Which I guess I should actually ask you, because normally we'd be running a little low on time at this point, but because I've been such a bullshitter today, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to ask you actually if you can. Is it possible for you to tell our readers what Savage Legion? Who's the main character of Savage Legion?
There are three main characters, okay? So Savage Legion is basically getting away from, like, the themes and motif and all that,
sure.
Higher whatever bullshit. It's about three very different women in three very different parts of this seemingly utopian society who start basically scratching at its greasy underbelly and figuring out that it's not a utopian society at all. And coming from the different angles they do, different places in society, different places in the order of things, they basically start to take it down. And that's why the trilogy overall is called the Savage Rebellion Trilogy, because it's about rebellion, Tim. As everything should be, really, right now, I think.
Yeah. You can't see it, but my fist is in the air. Yeah. Rebellion.
Yeah, so
Rebel.
The main character you see on the cover is Evie. She is the one who becomes part of the titular Savage Legion, but it's also about two other women who are working their own angles on taking down this awful regime. And that's basically the crux of it. And it's like I said, it does have that deconstructionist trope taking down a fantasy thing, but it also has just a lot of characters that I really enjoy, and I've tried to put a lot of really great. Like I said, it was my chance to write an epic fantasy novel, so I was like, I'm going to leave it all in the field. Like I'm going to treat it like this is the only epic fantasy battle I'll ever get to write, and everything.
Oh yeah.
Like, I just kind of went for it and kind of just wanted to leave my mark on a genre that I grew up, loving to death, as problematic as it has been, and just kind of offer a piece of myself to it for hopefully a better future for the epic fantasy genre, if that doesn't sound too grandiose. Who knows if I achieved any of these things, but those were my goals when I set out to write the book. And
I totally get it. I think that's a fantastic inspirational way to write, though, is to act like this is the last book you're ever going to write, almost. I
mean, shit, man. The truth is, it may be. Like, you never. I mean, and not the last book I'll ever write. Although it could.
Or maybe the last epic fantasy is what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, but it may be the last epic fantasy I ever get to have with a major publisher. Who the hell knows? So you gotta go for it while you have the opportunity. So that's what I did, and I hope people dig it. That's really what it all boils down to at the end of the day. When you publish any kind of book ever, it comes down to, I hope people would dig it.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's what it is, man. Seriously, and I was thinking about this the other day. I just hope people aren't indifferent to it. That's where I've gotten to with my stuff. I just hope people either love it more than anything or just fucking hate it, revile it to the point where they have to warn people against it. I just don't want that middle of the road indifference where people just kind of shrug and it's just another book on the shelves. That's really what I'm aiming for. So I'm not in particular whether you love it or whether you hate it, as long as one of those two things applies and you're not just indifferent to it.
So you want your book to either be like The Wheel of Time or The Wheel of Time. No, wait. No.
That was good. That was funny. Nice. Also, yeah.
I go back and forth with that series. I've never completed The Wheel of Time, full disclosure, but there's a reason for that. Anyway, yeah, that's fantastic. I really like that as a goal, and I actually was like, wow, I think I might actually be succeeding at a very small version of that goal myself. Not many people actually get to see my books because I'm an indie. But when they do, when they read them, people either like them or they throw them against the wall, is what it seems like. So that's great.
Hey, man, that's a huge accomplishment in and of itself. Like that's what you're going for at the end of the day. You're trying to get reactions. You're trying to move people, and if they throw it against the wall, you move the hell out of them. You know? And
they're down like $80 because they're mostly reading ebook. Oof, poor guys.
Well, that's a whole other discussion, really.
Yeah. No, we're not getting there. We're not going to go there. So yeah, Matt, anything else you want to tell us about Savage Legion?
Just that I would really love it if everybody would pre-order it from wherever you pre-order books. It means the world to me. And I know this is going to come out, and it's intentional. This is coming out very close to the book's release. So, at that point, you can wait for release day, but I still wouldn't hate it if you pre-ordered it.
Oh, spike it up, guys. Spike it up, folks. You go out there, you hit that button, you get that book. You're not going to regret it. I'm a huge Matt Wallace fan, as maybe didn't come across in this interview because I've been too busy being a bullshitter, but I can't recommend any of the Matt Wallace books. I've read enough, and I'm really looking forward to Savage Legion.
Oh, thank you, Tim. That means a lot to me. I really do appreciate that, and I appreciate you having me back on to, promote the hell out of it, and it's always a pleasure speaking with you. But yeah, and just I don't think the majority of readers really understand. This is just a general thing. This isn't even just specifically about my book, but people don't understand how important pre-orders actually are in this whole process, especially when you're with a publisher of whatever size. Like, a lot of your worth ends up being judged by that metric. So pre-ordering a book is, I think, the purest act of supporting an author with your dollars. We appreciate it when you shout about the book, you tweet about it, whatever. That's also an incredibly pure form of helping an author out. But I think that's the best, most effective, practical way you can help an author is to pre-order their stuff every time. So let's put that out there.
Absolutely, go for it. Go for it. You don't wait, folks. This is going to be. It's going to be here before you know it. Get in on the ground floor with this series. You're not going to regret it. And even if you're one of those people who's like, I wait till the series is done to read the books, the series is going to be done if you don't read the book. That's the kind of publishing market we're in, folks. I'm not saying Matt's going to get cut off, but it's tough out there for authors. It's tough out there for people, for all sorts of authors, indie, traditional, everybody. You may not get a chance to read the end of a series that you don't support when it's coming out. So that's just general advice, guys.
Hugely important point, and I thank you for making it. Yeah, waiting till the end is one of the worst. It's in contrast to pre-ordering, is one of the worst things you can do to help an author out. Because as Tim says, it might not be there by the end, when the time you're waiting for everything to be available. It's really important to get out there and support each book as it comes out. It makes a huge difference.
Absolutely, and to end the show on a somewhat grim note, because this is 2020. You may want to read a good book because you may not be there when the next book comes around. Oops, sorry. Probably should not have that in the show. This is a very bad year so far. It's scary, folks. And I'd say everyone should stay safe out there.
Everyone should. I'm trying to remain, just a sliver hopeful about things, but the world is making it very tough to do that. But yeah, enjoy every experience while you can experience it safely at this point, if possible. But yeah. And enjoy all of those experiences while you can. It's just generally good life advice right now.
Yeah. So thanks for listening, everybody. Matt, where can you find your books? Savage Legion's everywhere, right? Everywhere fine ebooks and print books are sold.
Basically, anywhere that you pre-order books, you can pre-order Savage Legion. I've been really strongly encouraging folks, if they can, to pre-order it or buy it from their local bookstores, their local independent bookstores. I'd really like it if people would do that. I've been referring people to IndieBound because that's where you can find your local bookstores who are carrying it. I've also been hearing good things about Bookshop. That's another thing you can check out that works with independent publishers. But again, man, however you need to, every consumer need is different. You might have accessibility issues that dictate that you need to get it on Kindle, and that's totally fine. point is, wherever you order books, pre-order your books, you can order my book, and I'm very grateful for all of those things. But if you can, get it from a local bookstore.
You heard it, folks. You heard it. And now, it's seconded, thirded, whatever. So thanks for listening, everybody. You can find more about us at mentalcellularpublications.com. That is to say me. I'm the only one behind the podcast here. I'll be honest, besides my fabulous guests like Matt Wallace.
Breaking that fourth wall, Tim.
Yeah, exactly. This has become a very bizarre episode. I hope you don't mind, people. It's also running to be one of the longest episodes I've done in a while. So thanks for listening, everybody. And don't forget, you can find Matt's book wherever, you can pre-order books. Get it how you can get it. Whatever is best for you and best for your local community. And you can find my books currently exclusive with the Dark Overlord, Amazon.com. But, you can support those too. They're good ones. Demon Scroll's out. The sequel Shadow Prince should be out by now. Thanks for listening, folks. Stay safe out there and have a good one.
That tears it.